Hey, this podcast, as per usual, is brought to you by Audible.com. You can go to www.audibletrial/TNRL, which is cleverly short for This Non-Religious Life, and sign up for the free 30-day trial. Get a free audiobook download where they have over 100,000 titles available for your audio device, MP3 player, Kindle, however it is you do it. Take it away, Ken.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read this. It says Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very line the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spreads confusion.
Hey everybody, it is Monday, May 28th, This Non-Religious Life. Thanks for sticking through some of the technical difficulties we had there at the beginning.
Nobody knows that.
Well, people in the chat room know right now.
They don't matter.
I'm your host, Ken. With me all the way across the country, we have Bob.
How's it going?
And Jason.
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
And a couple really, really big things to deal with, because it's been just over a year now since we started the show, and it's a big amount of time considering why we started the show, because the world was supposed to end. And you know, we all read an article recently about, you know, sort of where are they now of the May 21st, 2011 people, and it got me thinking, you know, what do you do a year after you predict the end of the world? Bob,
Well, according to that article, most people double down.
Yeah, it seems to be the common thing to do. In fact, I went through and I started compiling a list of the big date setters. And, you know, it's nothing new for Christianity. It's this sort of thing's been going on for almost as long as Christianity has been around, you know? And, you know, we have all the way back in 44, we have Theists leading a bunch of Jewish Christians off into the desert, claiming that he was the returned Messiah. And, I mean, for them it was the end of the world because, well, Roman legions didn't take too kindly to large groups of Jews congregating in the desert talking about the end of the world. And they were all dispatched.
And by dispatched, you mean?
Decapitated.
Didn't work out so good for Theists.
No, it didn't. But it kept going on, you know. Every so long you'd have some new date setter. In fact, from the lists that I've seen, you could say about once every 10 years there's someone setting a date on average.
Well, right now I would say that Camping, his group, they were probably the most mainstream and the most recent, like the biggest and the most recent in that we've seen.
You'd think that, but honestly, like,
they got a lot of
who
media
knows?
attention.
They did get a lot of media attention, but I think that has more to do with the world we live in. I mean, Billy Graham in the 1950s said maybe a year or two, and then he thought everything was going to be gone. Pat Robertson said that he guaranteed by fall of 1982 the world was going to end. No, I mean, I would
he
say
guaranteed
more
it.
Guaranteed it. The Mormons in 1891, again in 2000, and actually in 1969 there was a Mormon sect called the Morrisites, who guaranteed the world's going to end.
Yeah, but I mean, those movements seemed relatively small compared to Harold Camping's movement. I don't have the data, but just media exposure alone, his whole May 21st movement was a juggernaut.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, think about how large the Mormon Church is. You're talking about a major player as far as religions in the United States are concerned. Big enough to get legislation passed in California. We're talking Jehovah's Witnesses. Huge. It's a huge, huge world religion. And they set dates in 1874, 1878, 1881, 1910, 1914, 1918, 1925, 1941, 1975, 1984, 1999.
All swings and misses.
Yeah. Swing and a miss. If that were a batting average, you would make it into the
well, okay,
the Hall
so
of Fame as the worst hitter ever.
There's no doubt that the Mormon Church is large and that Jehovah's Witnesses have numbers, but don't those groups seem to be, at least to me, they seem to be characterized by like their sort of insular nature, and they're very sort of closed off, whereas it seemed like the Harold Camping movement that reached everyday workaday Americans.
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't call Mormons. I mean, Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses are probably two of the heaviest proselytizing groups in the United States as far as like the Christian, sort of plurality of Christian religions. I mean, these are two groups that actively, door-to-door proselytize. Camping's group wasn't doing that.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I always sort of looked at the Mormon missionaries and the Jehovah's Witnesses, and when you see them walking around town, I was always like, oh wow, look, there go crazy people, and they I mean, yeah, sure, they're proselytizing, but that whole movement just seemed to me, those people that get involved in that are off kilter, whereas the people that seem to be involved in the May 21st Harold Camping thing, they seem like regular people. There wasn't anything weird about them at all. I don't know. That was just my impression of it.
I mean, the thing is, I would say that about Mormons too. Mormons have to do an amount of missionary work when they're working up through the church, and I mean, they're average normal people. They're just, overly devout. I would classify a lot of the Camping's followers as a bit more crazy, but it should be noted that something that you and I both noticed, not with this, but with when it came to, I believe it was intelligent design, a lot of the people who got really, really into Camping's predictions, engineers.
Yeah, because they felt the math was on their side.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I wouldn't classify them all as crazy. I don't think you have to be crazy to believe in something that is crazy, but I
don't know, man. Just like when you see people that are very involved in the Mormon Church, they were I don't want to say they were born that way, but they were almost born into it. It seems like that they were raised in the Mormon faith. They were raised in the Mormon religion, and the same with the Jehovah's Witnesses. They were sort of born into it. Whereas, I don't know. I don't think people were born into Harold Camping's following at Family Radio. They just sort of wandered into it. They discovered it, and something about it clicked. There was some X factor to that garnered the rank and file to just step in line.
Yeah, I'm sure it definitely touched the nominally religious. I would say some people definitely were probably born into Camping's sort of following. I mean, he's been on the radio with his Family Radio for decades now, since the 70s. So I can imagine people today who are, our age, who definitely got into it because, maybe their parents started listening to camping when they were younger, and they sort of grew up with that mentality. But I mean, it doesn't take being, born into it to be really vehement about it. I think some of the most devout people I've ever met have been converts.
I don't know. I was just trying to think of what it was about the May 21st thing that people found so enticing.
Lack of science education. Poor critical thinking faculties. No, but really, I don't know. I think we're, as a culture, we like setting dates for things. Yeah, if things are unsure, it makes you feel better when you sort of attach a date to it. And I mean, Christianity is a 2,000-year-long eschatological game of, are we there yet? Is actually how I described it when I was talking to Matt yesterday.
I like better yet the 2,000 years of any day now.
Yeah, any day now. And I mean, sure, the Bible says, you'll never know. But then again, the Bible also says, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here who shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom, which is Matthew 16:28. Jesus was talking to people living during his own day and said, hey, I'm going to come back, and there's going to be the second coming before some of you are even dead. So either there's some really, really old people around, or he was wrong.
Or he was just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I do like that rationalization that gets done with that, with that apologist viewpoint, where they're sort of like, well, they thought it was this, then some time passes, and then it's just this one guy left, and then he dies, and then, well, it was this generation, and now it was the generation that they touched, and they just keep moving the goalpost for the end times.
Sure. And Matt actually just posted in the chat room now, redaction, ? Absolutely. But I think this is one of the earlier forms of the date setting. As people began to die off, they began to have to move the goalpost back, Oh, maybe it wasn't, literally those people who are still alive, because no one's alive from that age anymore. Maybe it's this generation. Maybe it's, this era.
Have you heard
and then it became more and more ambiguous in meaning.
Have you listened to have you listened you got me thinking about how we like to make these predictions as people, and how we like to put these dates on things. And have you listened to the Price show where he always does the prophecy scorecard? And he mentions an interesting fact that I hadn't thought of, which I think was pretty cool, where like a lot of these ancient documents, they make all kinds of predictions. But he said you can date the document based on the predictions that are in it, meaning what they'll do is they'll retrodict a whole bunch of stuff, and then they start making predictions, and when the predictions start getting wrong, then that's about where the document was written.
Yeah. There's a Latin term for it, and I forget what it is. It's like how you can date the book of Daniel to the 2nd century because of claims it makes about the death of Antiochus Epiphanes. And, it gets everything about the Seleucid Empire right until you start to get down to how the emperor of the Seleucid Empire dies. And it gets it completely wrong.
Right.
It claims that he's going to die, in the shadow of Mount Zion fighting the Ptolemies, but he doesn't. He actually dies of an illness out near the Parthian border, which is on the opposite end of his kingdom. and that's how you can date it. It's people have used that exact manner to date the Gospel of Mark. They date it to just before the fall of Jerusalem, because it seemed like the fall of Jerusalem was imminent in the first Jewish-Roman War, but it hadn't quite happened yet. You know, people could see what was about to happen, and they could make predictions, but they couldn't quite, you know, it wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah, I just think it's funny the way you could sort of make that statement, like if they're getting things right, it's because they've already happened and they're retro-dicted into it, and then when they start getting them wrong, then you know they're making predictions, and that's how you figure out which. I just thought I'd never thought of that before, and I thought that was funny.
Yeah, it's what is it called? Damn it! It's just gonna bug me until I remember what it's exactly called. But yeah. Prophecy is just that, you know. It's sort of looking to see what's going on now, and or in text, it seems to be, you know, a lot of apocalyptic texts. They're written after the fact or during the fact, but they're put in the mouths of someone who came earlier to give it, you know, credibility. You know. While Daniel was written in the 2nd century, it's put in the mouth of a 5th century character living in Babylon, supposedly predicting all these futuristic events. In Mark, you know, it's written in the 60s, literally the 60s of the 1st century, the Common Era, but it's put in the mouth of Jesus speaking sometime around the year 30.
Yeah. So the article about the what are we calling them, campingites or May 21sters, or what are we calling them now?
We can call them campingites.
Campingites.
I think that's apt. I mean, you know, that seems to be how you name people like this. You know, it was the Millerites believed that, you know, the world's going to end in March of 1844, and when it didn't come, they doubled down, just like camping's people did. They doubled down and they started saying, "No, wait, we might have misinterpreted something. Let's go back and look at it." And they decided October of this year. Sorry, we're off by, you know, 7 months. And when it didn't come then, you have the great disappointment. The Millerites just fractured, and I believe that's what's happened now. You know, this whole show started because of the discussion with Brother Mike.
Yeah.
And I was wondering last night, you know, where is he? I haven't received a newsletter from him in a while, and I went to his site, and it seems like he's more concerned now with discussing why other religions are sort of like, you know, apostate religions than anything else. You know, he's got sections about Freemasonry and Catholicism and Jehovah's Witnesses and why they're not real Christians. And it seems like that's more of his focus now. It was for almost a year. It was he was focusing almost exclusively on, you know, why you know, the date was still correct, but it was sort of this metaphorical apocalypse, and, you know, the end time was actually coming. The literal end time was coming. We just had to wait for it. And he had a whole bunch of other date setters submitting essays and proofs and all these pretty incredible things. So
I bet you there's a psychology student somewhere that's like writing his graduate thesis on these guys right now, because everything they did was a textbook maneuver. You know, they make their predictions, and there was even people that were saying, like, I'll make a prediction. I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. May 21st is going to get here. It's going to be nothing, and they're going to double down, and then they're going to say it actually happened, but in a spiritual sense, and that's exactly what happened.
There actually is a book on it. It was written back in, when was it? 1956. Called "When Prophecy Fails" by Leon Festinger, and what he did was he he wanted to understand the Millerites, so he went and studied a UFO cult.
Same thing.
And sort of examined them, and then what happened when everything sort of fell apart. It's a social psychological evaluation using participant observation. Him and his associates went undercover to sort of like engage with these people and see what they were doing, what they believed from a first-hand perspective. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been a year though, right? And we're still kicking.
Yeah, I know, right? Surprise, surprise. Harold Camping got it wrong again.
Well, we knew that would happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. So it's a year later, and somebody made I don't know if I saw that comment on the it was on a Facebook thread or something where somebody was saying that they felt bad for these children of families that are buying into these end times predictions, and how they don't have any money set aside for college. There's no tomorrow for them, and I agree. It's tragic.
Yeah. I do feel bad for the fact that these people who really got into it, and this is what usually happens. They decide that the end's coming, and they're sure without a doubt, so they give up on everything. They quit their jobs, they quit their hobbies, they spend their life savings, they don't invest for the future because they're positive that the future's not going to exist. They don't need to save for their kids' education. They can blow their kids' college funds on evangelizing, and that's upsetting, because when the date comes and goes, and it will, absolutely, as it always does, they're left with nothing. They're frayed friendships, strained familial relations, and so that's probably hard. I do feel bad. I feel bad for those kids.
Yeah, it is. It is tragic, and I understand the person that made that comment. I understand their sympathy, and I feel that way too. But I think I don't think sympathy is how you make this problem go away. Critical thinking and criticism will make this problem go away, not just being sorry for them.
Call me a cynic. I don't think the problem will ever go away per se.
All right.
It's a bit too.
I can't hear him now.
Sort of embrace these ideas that have ingrained eschatologies inside them. A fundamental factor of Christianity is that the world is going to end. Like, that is, the world is finite. And, that, so long as that concept exists, people will latch onto it and start applying dates.
Well, wondering why people think that way is a nice segue into our book choice this week. The book, actually Ken picked it out. It was his idea. It was a good one too. It's the Michael Shermer book, Why People Believe Weird Things. And it is available at www.audibletrial.com/TNRL. And you can download it for free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial. And you can listen to this book. And it's very good. And he asks those questions too about why people want to believe these things. What is it about the human brain and how it's wired that makes us want to believe into these apocalyptic ideas? Why that one's so appealing?
Yeah, and he doesn't just deal with religious claims either. It's UFO abductions and television psychics and all sorts of things.
It's fairly broad. He also does. He also talks about Holocaust denial too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't read the book. It's been on my my list of things to to get to for a while now. Holocaust denial is actually one of the things that I'm fascinated in, because there are still people alive who survived the Holocaust. Like,
Yeah, I know.
It's not like it's something that happened 500 years ago, and you can sort of be like, I don't know if that actually happened. The people who survived it are still alive.
This one guy, I heard him talk. He's Jewish. He was like, yeah, when my grandparents got to Israel, the first thing they did was go to a tattoo joint and get those numbers put on their arm.
Yeah, right. Just to ensure that they could never be buried in a Jewish cemetery.
Yeah, it's terrible. So the book is really, really good, and he sort of has some. He approaches it from that, not so much the neurological side, like Harris might approach things, but he sort of sees these crazy ideas, these weird ideas, as he puts them, as sort of a cultural phenomena. And he's also the guy that he sort of has that approach of looking at things like there's no one thing that proves anything. It's all arrows pointing in the same direction. That's sort of how he looks at evidence. It's good. It's a good read. So, I know this. I know this isn't so much religion, but it definitely is end times. Did you see the news article about Miami? Did you see what happened in Miami yesterday or Saturday?
It was Thursday.
It was Saturday, wasn't it? I thought it was Saturday.
It hit the paper on Saturday.
Yeah. Did you see that, Ken? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Sounds cutting in and out.
There's a news article that came out of Miami, and it was in the Miami Herald.
Was it the guy who ate the other person?
Yes. I hope your zombie go bag is packed. I hope that you have enough supplies. We're going to get hit first because we're on the East Coast, but it's eventually going to make its way out to you.
Oh, believe me, if at a moment's notice I have places to get things. Just saying.
Yeah,
I read the zombie survival guide cover to cover when I was in college, and I know what to do.
So Ari, so it's funny that we're joking about it, and we think it's funny, and I mean, it's not funny that somebody is dead and that somebody was, had their face eaten off, but that whole story, we're sort of giggling about it. How much do you want to bet there is somebody out there now that's believing it, that they believe that is a sign that the end times are coming?
I'm sure someone. I mean, I mean, people see Jesus in a scrambled egg, and they think it's a sign of the end times.
I just, I don't know. Now you got me thinking in that cynic manner. I'm like, there's just no shortage of crazy in the world.
Matt had a question. I was giving him time because he apparently had to refresh the chat room about eschatology in a technical sense, and doesn't science have its own eschatology? And I don't think it does. I mean, science might have a period in which it thinks, the universe is going to enter a state of entropy and end, but time doesn't end. It might become meaningless with no matter, nothing to gauge it by, but I don't believe there's an eschatology, especially not in the sense of it being a final sort of judgment.
So I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question. Is he asking if there's like a scientific branch of eschatology? Does science have its own eschatology?
He's having problems on his end. So, but I think he means, like, doesn't science believe that the universe is going to end at some point in time, and that's equivocal to eschatology. But I don't think the universe is ever going to end. And I mean, maybe I'm not the person to ask about this. I'm not an astrophysicist.
Well, I mean, Yeah, I mean, well, okay, one, I guess it's a fair question, and two, yeah, science makes predictions about the end times all the time. I mean, science, we don't really know, but science has a pretty good grasp on what's going to happen to our sun over the next 10 billion years. And we have a pretty good idea of where the universe is going to go in the next, 10 billion years. But, there isn't going to be a moment where science says, yeah, and then all of a sudden, nothing. Like that's not going to happen. It's a slow fizzle out of the universe because science understands things like matter and energy. I don't know. I don't think science has anything meaningful to say about it because it happens over billions of years.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Is the universe going to end? Not really.
Yeah, I don't know. You start getting into vague terms there when you start talking about eschatology and science. You really have to sort of bend the meaning of eschatology, and even then, at that point, what does that even mean?
What does it mean when your answer encompasses billions of years?
Yeah, or not just billions of years, but more than that. You're talking trillions, or more than that. Who knows how long it would take for the universe to enter a state of complete entropy? Or then contract maybe, and then if it contracts and compresses and then re-explodes again. I know that's one possible theory.
Or are you talking about the Big Crunch?
Big Crunch.
Yeah. So science is. So I guess in that sense, like there are people in science thinking about it, but those are not eschatological. Meaning it's the end times. It's science trying to understand a process that takes billions of years to undergo.
Yeah. I don't know. Not even about time. Just it does that mean there's an end? Period. Because eschatology deals with the finality of things. And then maybe the starting of a new thing, but when you're talking about a physical world, interdisciplinary dialogue, secular eschatology, you have to really start to mince terms.
Did you see the now you got me thinking about something else. Did you see that there's some news articles in the recent weeks about the Mayan calendar, because right in the 2012 end of the world Mayan calendar bullshit, where these guys found it was I guess it wasn't like a new find, it was something that they rediscovered in an old find or something like that, and it was like it was a Mayan calendar where they were like, yeah, we know it goes way beyond 2012. They never thought that 2012 would be the end.
Yeah.
But that hasn't slowed people down one bit.
Oh, and it won't. And that is the nature of cognitive dissonance. New information will not slow you down. You'll deny it until you get there. But what's going to happen is it's going to come and go, and then people are going to act like this new calendar that goes beyond 2012 is something new, and they're like, oh, well, it goes until this date. That's what it was. This first date was just, warming up.
Maybe. And again, I'm like in that cynical mode, but I think that person that writes that book that sells it in the, I don't know, some hippie new age bookstore about 2012 being the end of the world, I think, one, they know they're bullshitting, and two, they have contempt for the person that would buy it.
Sure. I can get behind that. I mean, I think maybe it's less devious than that. Typically, I think they probably believe it themselves, but they're definitely fooling themselves. It's definitely confirmation bias. They're looking at pieces of evidence that corroborate their story while ignoring things that don't. It's definitely motivated reasoning. They already have a preconceived notion in their head, and they're just going to try and drive towards that. And then, definitely cognitive dissonance. Sort of shut out everything that might obscure or change their view.
Do you think Harold Camping believed what he was selling?
Absolutely, I do. I believe without a doubt that he was sincere in his beliefs. I think he's, I hope the dollar signs that Matt just put up was about this.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. Remember the Heaven's Gate cult?
Yeah.
They believed it.
The 90s.
And they proved it.
What's that?
I said they believed it, and I believe that they believed it because they proved it.
Yeah. No, they definitely put the biggest thing that they had up for, up for sale, and that was their own lives, Actually, right down the street from me, there's, it's called the Museum of Death, and they actually have like the bunk beds and stuff from the Heaven's Gate.
And the Adidas, what did they wear, like Adidas shoes or something strange?
Yeah, it was like Adidas shoes and like jumpsuits.
Yeah. That was a strange thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's just goes to show you, like, people can believe things, with the absolute utmost conviction, just no matter how crazy it is.
Yeah, I just wonder. I don't know. I just wonder, like, a guy like Camping, like, he may be sincere, but like all of the people that are cashing in on the 2012, I think that anybody that's cashing in probably doesn't believe it.
It's possible. It definitely casts doubt onto their convictions, I think. I mean, if you believe the end of times is coming, and you're asking everyone to give up everything they have because they're not going to need it, but you don't, that's definitely a red flag.
Was it you that was telling me about the end times pet sitting service?
Yeah.
Like, all right, yeah, you get raptured up, but an atheist will come and let your dog out or some shit like that.
Yeah. In case you get raptured, there was a group of atheists who will take care of your animals.
Well, that's nice.
It's expensive.
See, I think like I would totally cash in on that because, one, I don't believe it, and two, if they're willing to give me their money, then okay. You could make it like a one-time fee of something reasonable, like $50, and then you just maintain a database.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually kind of disappointed that I didn't come up with that.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Well, maybe I'll start a Norfolk branch of it. It'll be like we can have a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Just set up one in every city. Have a 2 billion served.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus, man. Why aren't we doing this? And our tagline can be like, just in case.
Yeah.
Better to be prepared.
Matt just brought up a couple things, Y2K and 88 Reasons Why Jesus is Coming Back in 1988, then 89. Y2K is funny because I actually have a really funny story about that. Just an example of how people can believe with absolute certainty crazy things. Everyone believed that the year 2000 all the computers were going to reset and crash and die, and we were going to get thrown back into the Stone Age. Nuclear reactors are going to explode and missiles are going to launch. There were some crazy ideas floating around, and just to be clear, the Mormons thought the world was going to end in 2000, and the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Seventh-Day Adventists both believe that the world's going to end in 99, right around the year 2000. But there was a woman who lived in the town I grew up in, who for almost a year, every week would go by these huge pallets of water and like provisions from like the local Walmart, and she was stocking up like for almost a year, buying like a pallet a week of stuff. What happens when it comes and goes and you have like damn near 60 pallets of water and food?
I don't know. What'd she do?
I have no idea. I just know she was buying it.
She goes on vacation because she's got all the food that she needs for the entire year. She doesn't need to. She doesn't need to spend any more money.
She's eating SpaghettiOs for the rest of her life.
I don't care that you want pizza. We have 60 pallets of rice and beans in the back, and we're going to eat that first.
Yeah, man, that's just there really is a darker, sinister side to it, and people do horrible things.
Yeah, and I mean, these people aren't crazy per se. They get duped. It's very easy to believe crazy nonsense.
Yeah, I get angry hearing those stories about people having their pets euthanized, on the 20th because they didn't want them to be part of the tribulation in the 21st.
Yeah.
That person
Absolutely.
needs to be punched in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my biggest problems with that. It was like, people were going out and getting their animals euthanized, and it like sucks, man. Like that sucks.
Yeah, well, and one, it's not, and two, it just shows you, like I said, that dark side to it, what people are capable of. And if people are having their pets euthanized, they're thinking about their children.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least they think that their kids are going to get raptured or something. So, but
well, that one lady tried to kill her children, stabbed them. And it wasn't because of like an ex-boyfriend or somebody who came in that found the kids bleeding, because she didn't want them to be a part of it. So she tried to kill them the day before.
Yeah.
Yep. Those crazy people too, who were like, they don't want to wait for the rapture. They'd rather just die first, and unfortunately they'll take out their loved ones too. Eschatology is a dangerous game. I like what Matt called it, sloppy exegesis.
Sloppy exegesis.
Like and I think, I know Matt's a Protestant, but I think Protestantism's to blame for that one. Sort of puts the hands of exegesis, all the tools of exegesis, in like anyone's hands. Anyone can do this and interpret it, and unfortunately, a lot of people just are even more inept than others, and sort of come out with really crazy ideas about something that is only maybe marginally crazy.
Yeah. It should only be this much crazy, and you took it to 11.
Yeah, the glass is only meant to be half full. You're filling it to the brim, and just you keep pouring into it. The Diet Cola of crazy is what Matt just said.
But again, this is one of those things. Like, these are horrible things I lay at the feet of religion.
Yeah. Well, what does Dr. Price say? Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we learn to believe. And I think that's fair. Believing in something like religion, when it comes down to religious claims, it teaches you not to necessarily question them, regardless of how crazy they are. I mean, if you can believe something that's this crazy, you're definitely on the path to believe something that's this crazy.
Other direction.
There we go.
Other direction of crazy. Well, so I wanted to, and this got me thinking about this too, and I wanted to touch on it because yesterday, and here I am, I'm asking this question like towards the end, but last week I was asking about what it means for the Bible to be an inspired document. What does this inspiration mean? And we've seen this one guy made a comment about it, about that inspiration simply means that God reveals himself through the text of the Bible. And I was saying how like textual criticism really throws a monkey wrench in that. And if that's true, what this person says that it's about God revealing himself to you through the text, then how are we to know? So this is my, sort of scientist brain going, if that were true, wouldn't God then reveal himself to me the same way as he reveals himself to you? And based on the same reading of the text. So why are there differences? And if you say, well, it's going to reveal himself differently to everybody, then you cannot make any claims whatsoever from a textual basis.
Yeah. I mean, once you start delving into the realms of textual criticism, and you start, understanding redaction and intent, and motivations, and you start getting into things like textual variance.
But isn't that
tribal problems? And you really start to see that even if it's inspired, in the original, we no longer have that original.
Right. But where I'm going with this is, what does it mean to have sloppy exegesis of an inspired document?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure.
Wouldn't all exegesis of an inspired document be by definition sloppy, if it's different for everybody?
Not necessarily. Sloppy exegesis is one problem. Exegesis, I think exegesis is a very critical tool for understanding the meaning of any document. Too many people do intragesis and then imagine it as being exegesis. They, instead of reading out of the document, they read into it. And they start giving meaning to things that don't have any meaning, rather than figuring out what the actual meaning is. It's really convoluted, and the line between doing exegesis and doing intragesis is very, very thin. It's a very fine line.
But how can you have? I guess I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around this. If it's an inspired document, meaning that God reveals himself to you this way through inspiration through the document, then wouldn't sloppy exegesis be what? You didn't get God's message?
Not necessarily. I mean, it goes into a number of forms of sort of older forms of exegesis, especially biblical exegesis. In Judaism, there are two forms of exegesis that are really common, and that's midrash and pesher. It's like in the first century, the Jews saw that everything that had been predicted in the Old Testament had already come true, but that doesn't mean that it was a dead letter. It doesn't mean that it was useless. Reading about the predictions of what would happen with the say the exile, or things that Isaiah said, weren't dead. There was a meaning below the regular meaning. It's not like the Jews, like, say Matthew, because I think Matthew was full of pesher and midrash exegesis. He went back. He didn't believe that everything in the Bible, or his Bible, which would be the Old Testament to us, was about the coming Messiah. But he thought that there was a layer underneath the initial meaning that was hidden until he came across it, and then once you find that, you can sort of uncover the secondary meaning, and that's the exegesis he was doing. And so I believe a lot of Christians do that today, where they take the Bible and they might read the gospel as something of an historical document, but they believe that there are hidden meanings layered underneath it, meanings that could only be given by a divine entity. And I believe it is sloppy exegesis, but that's just typically how I feel about it, is that it's sloppy.
I mean, I guess my understanding of, like, I get the idea of exegesis. I get it. I mean, that I understand, but I guess my notion of what it means to be an inspired document is still fuzzy. I don't know, like, in math,
it's a purposefully
2 + 2 is always
term.
going to equal 4. We don't get different answers. In fact, the whole scientific method relies on reproduction and getting the same answer, on repeat experiments. Why do people have different interpretations of biblical scripture if it's God revealing himself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the thing. They believe that they have the correct understanding of how God has revealed himself. The reason why the Catholic Church had such a stranglehold on literacy and reading the Bible, and why they didn't want it translated for so long, is that they understood, even in the Middle Ages, a text can be interpreted in as many ways as there are readers. So it's best to keep that interpretation orthodox and, confined to as few people as possible. Keep it to just the priests. And you'll be able to maintain, an understanding of the Bible that's orthodox. Once you started getting people reading the Bible in their own languages, say in German and English and French and whatnot, you had the problem arose very quickly that people could interpret this any way they wanted, and so you had sensus literalis installed. The Protestants believed that reading the Bible only in its literal sense was appropriate, but even that leads people off into crazy extreme directions. You have the mainline Christians, say like Episcopalians and Presbyterians and whatnot, who are sort of content to read the Bible in a literal sense, but they understand that a parable is literally a parable, that something within context is literally within its own context. But then you have super evangelical Pentecostals or Seventh-Day Adventists who shoot off in this direction, and they all adhere to the same idea of reading Scripture literally, but what that means to them is totally different.
So,
and
based on, my way of looking at that would be, or at least I feel that the fact that there is a plurality of opinion about an inspired document is a red flag.
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you're in the trenches, you don't realize that the other side might be right.
Well, I guess where I'm going is that even if there is a right answer, and we don't know that there is, but let's say there's a right way and a wrong way, and it is an inspired document, shouldn't people be getting the right way? Shouldn't people be getting the right answer? The right exegesis? Did we lose Ken?
Yes. The sound effects problems has been because of Skype, and Skype just crashed.
Oh no, we lost Ken.
Continue that thought.
I'm asking questions about it, and like I said, my understanding of it is poor. But if I want to find the right answer to a physics problem, I look in a physics textbook, and if you look in the physics textbook, you'll figure out the same right answer that I'll get. But if we're searching for some metaphysical question, and we look to the Bible as an inspired document, we may see things two different polar opposite ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the very fact that there's that plurality of opinion means that maybe neither of you are right.
You're good. Go ahead, Ken.
What was that?
No, we were just talking about the plurality of opinion of an inspired document.
Yeah.
I see it as a red flag.
Yeah, and I was saying, Matt actually brought up a point that I was going to bring up, is that in Christian theology, you have an issue between divine inspiration and human imperfection, where they believe that even, humans are imperfect, and therefore, it might be that, most people just got it wrong, or it takes a certain level of understanding to try and grasp it. And there's a lot of pandering to figure out why, why my interpretation of the inspired document is correct.
From an all-powerful God, though.
Yep.
I mean, that seems counterproductive right there. If I'm the all-powerful God, and I want to inspire somebody, pal, you're inspired, and then pal, you're inspired too, but not, you're inspired this way and you're inspired that way, and now go fight and see who's right.
Yeah. I think that takes us to right about the time, though, doesn't it, Jason?
That is right.
Yeah. I actually looked to see when we started this show. So I mean, definitely ending on a note which leaves a lot of questions, and for people to answer. And if they think they have the answer, they can always leave us a YouTube comment, like some people have. Just try to make them concise enough for me to read them.
Well, yeah. So we had a lengthy YouTube comment from I don't know, True Blue 99 or something, which deals with a lot of that separation of church and state, which I want to get to, but we'll have to do it next week.
Yeah. We will get to it next week. Actually, I'm gonna go through it and I'll make notes and sort of try and get my head in the game to deal with a comment that long. Just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row. Anyway, if you have any other questions, comments, or anything of the like, you can leave us a voicemail, 757-337-2195. You can email us, nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife. You can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, which all you need is the app, and then you just select our show and listen to it. You don't need to download or sync or anything like that. It just streams.
Yay.
Which it comes in a lot of new cars, BMWs and Fords, if you have a newer car like that.
Our listeners have BMWs.
I know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right. You don't know.
They could.
They could.
You could.
I'm surprised Ken doesn't have a BMW yet. That's the state car of California.
Yeah. I really don't want to own a car in the city. Los Angeles is terrible to drive in. You can Put us in your circle on Google Plus.
Circle is bitches.
iTunes. Go to iTunes and leave feedback. Rate the show. Anything is appreciated. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, audibletrial.com/TNRL. Sign up for that free trial. Get a free ebook. It's great. It helps us grow the show. We have a lot of things planned for coming up. Always just go to the website, zombiePopcorn.com. Sign up for the e-newsletter. You'll get information about the giveaways, the shows that happen every week. And, just so you know, you can go there. You can sign up for a free copy of my book. Check out the site for all the details there. And other than that, I think we're good. Did I forget anything?
Go Devils.
Praise Satan. No, wait. Wrong Devils, sorry.
Wrong Devils.
Wrong Devils. Sorry.
All right. With that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ. Spread confusion and promote lies. The gospel of